Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. My name's Christopher Lee. Welcome to the Creative Tavern. I am a concept artist, been in the industry for about 10 years now, worked with various companies such as the Walt Disney Imagineering and Creative Universal Creative. And I'm here today with my buddy, Michael Welker.
Hello, everybody. My name is Michael L. Welker. I am a semi-retired producer in the theme park industry. I'm also a writer. Like Chris, I've worked for Walt Disney Imagineering and Universal Creative. And very recently, Chris and I, because of the pandemic situation, we're kind of in between projects, decided like, hey, let's put our heads together and do something, just the two of us. Like, let's do something together. Um, Long, winding, and adventurous road later, we wound up saying, hey, let's learn how to make a video game. Neither of us have ever done that before, but I bet we could do it. And so we started doing that, and at some point said, hey, you know what? Us learning how to do this creative process would be really valuable to other people. So let's stream this. Let's put together a channel where we can give people a window into the creative process and hopefully inspire and encourage other people in their own creative projects. Hence the Creative Tavern and the show you're watching now. So welcome.
Yeah, welcome. And every single Wednesday, Sunday, you're welcome to come here on Twitch to watch us just see the progress. Sometimes there's amazing progress, sometimes there's no progress. That's just part of the journey. And so today, I will give you guys a recap of what we did last week, and I will show you what I did for this week. All right, so let me go and share stuff with Michael. Really, I need to share my screen. I need to share my screen, share screens, and go to screen number 4, which is Photoshop. Boop. Chris. Oh, wait a second. Oh, I'm confused. Oh, wait, hold on. There you go. Ah, okay, sweet. All right. I'm not supposed to show you Photoshop, which I will
Okay.
close out right now. I will. This is what I am. Hold on. No. I want to share video first. And this is for Dr. Pecker, who's in the chat right now. Uh, so Michael, you see, here you go. This is it right here. So you see
Sweet.
that, right? All right.
Yep.
And then I want to share video. Boom, right there. All right. So the chat sees the video. All right, here we go. You may or may not hear the audio. I didn't really test it out, so this is what I did
No
last week.
problem.
I added the clamps onto the fuel towers, and I created a path using I created a railway using a path and connected that camera onto that path, and then so I'm able to basically fly through the environment in a very much more controlled way than putting the object, for example, the camera into one area and then hit a keyframe and then move along the thing and then hit another keyframe. Um, that is one way to do it, but that is not the best way to do it because it just gets really hard when you decide to change a, a route or trajectory or a spin or whatever. It gets really, really, really wonky. And then so by doing it this way in Blender, I was able to map out a course, albeit a very, very winding and turbulent uh, route. It was one that was a lot more fun to create and so much more um, interesting to watch and to go through. And because of that, I was able to create like for us to shoot out of the environment and then shoot back into the asteroid field. Um, this is it.
Meow.
CaptBluBlu, hey, how are you, sir? Welcome aboard.
Hello.
We're just doing a quick review. And then going down, and then shoo. So yeah, that is what we talked about last week. And one thing that Michael did mention is that story-wise, we kind of want to shoot um, not the clamps themselves, but we wanted to shoot kind of like a power regulator so that, for example, I'm going to pause, so that when we shoot, we don't really shoot this per se. I'm sorry, Michael, can you see my mouse?
Yeah, yep,
And
I
thing?
can see
Okay,
it.
cool. We don't want really to shoot this because when we shoot this, would kind of feel like this whole thing would fall off. So instead, what Michael has suggested was to create kind of like a power regulator that we can shoot in order for, power to surge into the middle platform, which then will have a crazy burst of energy that will, push the boss up out of the asteroid. Spoiler alert. And that's what I did for this upcoming week. You and I'm even more curious as to what Dr. Pecker has to say about this now that I find out that he's actually in the Air Force.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
get a unique perspective.
Yeah, he's probably like, you're doing too many barrels. That's not right. A pilot cannot do that. And I was like, oh man.
Yeah,
So
if
yeah.
only ships were that agile.
Yeah, I know, right? All right, and then let me just go really quick. So basically, that's like the full review, and then this is the end. We are, and then at this point, the mini boss has been damaged, and then so it tries to escape out, and then we are essentially just following the bad guys. CaptBluBlu says, "But is G-force a thing in space?" He brings up a good point. He brings up a great point. That's a great question.
I think it is, yeah, because I think if you are in the ship, even if you're out in space, if the ship's accelerating, it's creating force on your body. It's like acting as gravity. So as long as the ship keeps accelerate, like if the ship were able to accelerate, I think it what's gravity on Earth, or like what's the rate things
Nine
fall, like
point
9.8
nine
meters
point
per
eight two
second or
per second.
something.
Yep. Hmm.
Wow, good memory, Chris.
Yep. No, same to
As
you.
long as
You
it was
you know it too.
accelerating at that constant rate, it would feel like you had gravity pushing you back in your seat. I think. I'm not an astrophysicist though, so I may be talking completely out of turn.
Dr. Pecker says, "I wish I was a pilot. LOL. I only put the bombs and missiles on jets." Damn.
What is it? That's ordnance,
Only,
right? I think. Yeah, only, only
only.
dealing with the explosives.
Sheesh, man. Much more respect to you. Holy cow, that is insane. Uh, Tip of the hat, man. Wow, that's awesome. Okay. All right. So that was that, and I went ahead and closed the video. And now what you are seeing is the same environment. However, Michael, I want you to take a look at what I did.
Ooh.
I created power regulators that we can shoot off or damage.
Yeah.
So I pause right
Yeah.
there.
Hell yeah.
So basically, there's like two little regulator coupling thingies, majiggies, for us to
Mm-hmm.
shoot at, so as to not, shoot the whole entire plug, if you will.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
And the other, like, not to interrupt your
Yeah.
update, but
Go ahead,
one of the things I really like
please.
about the design that you did is because this going back to like the idea of progression where you start the beginning of the level, it's a little bit easier, and then we kind of introduce more difficult enemies, and then we introduce more obstacles that you need to dodge, and then obstacles and enemies simultaneously. And since this is like the final area, uh, splitting up the target into two smaller targets is an increase in difficulty that is, I think,
Mm.
interesting and appropriate for the final boss fight. So
Oh,
yeah,
that's awesome.
I really like this direction.
Great, great. I'm glad you like that because I only did two of them because I felt that it looked unbalanced. So therefore, I did just top
Mm,
and bottom instead of just top. or just bottom.
Sure.
But I'm glad that my bullshit actually made sense. I mean it's not bullshit. I mean the only reason why I did it is because of balance, how it looks, right? But you're actually giving
Mm-hmm.
reason, design, gameplay wise as to why that makes sense. So
Happy
yeah, that's
accident.
awesome. Happy accident. That's cool. But yeah, so Michael, that's essentially what I did in this level, and notice that I I the only red part is the part where you hit, and I
Mm-hmm.
took away the other red parts because we don't want the players to hit that area.
Right.
Pew,
Yeah,
pew.
that's great. I
Yeah,
love it.
and again, this is not the final look. I mean, it could
Sure.
be like the massing of it, but I
Mm-hmm.
will when we fall in love with, I mean, when we finish designing the game and fall in love with the proportions and everything, then I'll go in and make this connect. Because right now I'm being super lazy. I'm not really designing. I'm just designing one shape and then squishing, squashing, and putting stuff together to make it work.
Sure.
So there's that. Wow, clipping. Um, but yes, that's what I did for that part. And so with that said, Michael, last week we talked about actually tackling scene four, kind of working backwards, to see what
Mm-hmm.
the contrast to this space, which is like a big gigantic interior, and then to do a kind of a more claustrophobic scene, which is a little bit different than this scene where we're like flying around again inside a giant asteroid. Um, and so let me show you that right now. Uh, okay, and let
Cool.
me all right, so let me close this. Do not save. All right. Are you ready? Are you ready for the
Oh
big
yeah.
moment? All right. There is no music at all, so please bear with me. Okay, so I will be talking throughout this thing. So the story
Okay.
wise is we just finished with scene three, which we're flying kind of outside, but now scene four, which this is, we're flying inside of a interior tube, like a super super long tube. And last week, Michael, you said that you were afraid that it might be too short of a duration, and
Mm-hmm.
I took that challenge. I said, I could make it long as I want to, and and I think I overdid it. as I as I always do. Um, uh, but that's good because that's actually a question that I want to ask because let me know how the length of this feels. We'll play this a couple of times because I will be talking and I will be asking you questions and you might just be like, oh, this is working or that's not working. So let me go ahead and play it. So essentially, we're flying down inside of a tube, right? All right, hold on.
Mm-hmm.
Play. We're flying inside of a tube. Yay. Now this is kind of boring. What if there were enemies? Whoa, we're fighting pew 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 pew. There's like a whole bunch of enemies, right? And yes, and we're just flying and doing barrel rolls and oh there's structures, oh whoa look at structures, we're flying through structures, and oh look even more structures. Do you want less structures? Okay, we could take it off, but we want the extra structures in there. And then yeah, we're just flying, we're shooting, and notice that we're like making a lot of turns, is because I didn't want to make a huge straight line. Technically we are in an asteroid, and then inside there are also like various obstacles, and obviously these are very very uh, rectangular, but in the real game we'll actually make it more interesting. So the red things that we have to shoot in order to pass through, oh which one do we go, oh we go to this one, all right, and then we're flying through. We are automatically chosen a path which unfortunately the players are not able to choose, but we choose it for them. It's kind of like Indiana Jones is like, oh, you see, like there's a tunnel, but all of a sudden, whoa, we get turned around and we go to another direction. I want to have more of those moments, like we're going down a path, but then all of a sudden, like, oh, nope, nope, no, we're going down another one. All right, so Michael, that we're looping right now, and
Mm, okay.
that's basically it. So before you ask any questions, I want to show you This is the roller coaster
Whoa.
madness. You said that it's too short. You're wrong, sir. I
Wow.
can make it as long as I want. And obviously this could be enclosed inside of a asteroid, right? It's a huge
Mm-hmm.
asteroid that we're
Sure.
inside of. Why is it shaped like this? How does it make sense?
Doesn't matter.
I don't think it fracking matters.
Doesn't matter.
uh,
Nope.
yeah. So I think the part that I want to show you really quick is again the area where we actually we're flying and then it's like whoa I want to have more of this kind of moment and that's something that you and I can discuss and have fun with and it's like whoa, whoa, picking a path.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I did for this week. And the question that I have for you is obviously scene four is one of, we're combining one and two. So scene four is one of four parts, right? And the question
Yeah.
is how long do we want to stay in this area? And the question is how long should the track be? Because I mean it'll get a little bit claustrophobic. I mean if we spend too much time in here, it's like okay we get it already, right? What is
Mm-hmm.
the best balance? Currently I have it set to 2,000 frames per second. Um, so divide that however you will. Um, I'm not gonna try to do the math right now. Um, but yeah, just by watching this, okay, I'm gonna shut up. I'm gonna be quiet, and I'm just gonna play it and let me know how it feels. All right, let if it's too long or if it's too short.
This is the looping part. This is not the from the beginning, right?
This is what I just played was from the beginning. Do you want me to start from the beginning?
Wait a minute. But I thought in the very beginning we were flying through tunnels with no obstacles, and then later the obstacles appeared. Because right here you have obstacles immediately, but in the first
It's
thing you
because I turned it on. Ah, I tricked you. I tricked you. I turned it on. There's a little
Oh,
thingy button right here. Yeah, because
interesting.
when I was narrating, I basically turned it on and off. Here, let me show you. Uh,
Uh,
yeah, I
mm,
tricked you.
yeah,
So
you totally did.
I here's turning
Because
on and off, and then here's turning on and off
gotcha.
the thing, and then on and off, and then the
Cool.
on and
Okay,
off.
well,
Yeah,
neat.
yeah. So
Um,
do you want to
because
do you want to see it without it or with it?
well, honestly, both because the way you act, like the way you had that structured with like at first it's just a tunnel, then there's enemies, then there's some minor obstacles, then there's some
Oh,
kind of more claustrophobic obstacles, then there's
oh.
shit that's actually sticking out into your flying space. That's the way the actual level should be designed. Like it should progress that way.
Well, shit, another happy accident. Because I did not
Yeah,
intend it that way. I was just trying to show
if
you like the stuff that you would go
like
through to
here's
break it.
the building blocks and like,
Yeah,
I'm turning the
exactly.
layers on. No, that was brilliant. Like that's exactly the way that level should go.
Yeah. All right.
Um, so yeah, we should. So that's essential to determining how long it should be. The one thing that I would say, and like lengthwise, with like actual time duration, what you have seems pretty good. Like w- watching through that and kind of imagining playing the game, I think would be just fine. Like that would not overstay its welcome. It could potentially even be longer, but what kind of complicates that is the speed. I think is potentially too fast.
Okay.
Um,
I think I could fix that on the fly, but I might break it.
okay.
Uh,
Um,
no, no. You know what?
at,
No, I'm not gonna touch it right now.
okay,
I don't want to risk
that's
it.
that's
Sorry. Yeah.
totally fine. We don't need
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah.
Um, I think certain portions of it at that speed are great.
Mm-hmm.
The when the obstacles are like in your path, um, expecting the player to be able to shoot those before they whiz by, I think is at that speed is unrealistic.
Sure.
But
Yep.
it could be fine if instead of them being colored red as obstacles you're supposed to shoot, we could just get rid of that color coding and say like, this is a thing you need to dodge.
Mm.
Asking a player to dodge at that speed still might be a little bit too fast, but
Sure.
if we dialed it back like 10%, 20%, then it would be fine. But if you want
Hmm.
them to be able to shoot it, I think we need to dial back like 50,
Yeah.
60,
Oh yeah.
70%.
Right. 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 Right.
Um, but yeah, on the whole, you have succeeded marvelously. I think it's super fun. It's a great contrast to the scene that precedes it and the scene that's going to come after it. It's going to add more impact to that moment, that like reveal moment, especially if we couple this with that entry sequence, like the before you actually get into the boss's cavern,
Hmm.
there's
Hmm.
that moment where you're flying past all the structure with like kind of like slivers of visibility to the space outside.
Hmm. Hmm.
Going from this interior tunnel to that space kind of like starts to build excitement, and then you've got this like huge big reveal after having spent all this time in these really tight claustrophobic tubes.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's just going to be fantastic. And I love the way you've designed this such that even though we're like in a tunnel, there's so much movement. Like, you're pitching upward and going up the tunnel, and then you're rolling to the left and then turning to the right, and
Hmm.
it yeah, it's really solid, man. Like I'm very, very excited about what you've got here already. Um,
I'm glad you
yeah,
like
I
it,
think
man.
it could
That's
be
that's awesome.
total blast. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, and obviously the tunnel right now is kind of a square shaped. It's not going to be
Sure.
square shaped. It's gonna be a lot sexier. Fingers crossed. It's gonna be cooler, edgier looking. Um, but just to get the point across, I just created a box tunnel. And I'm learning
Sure.
like different techniques in Blender to do this. If I didn't learn the technique, I would not have done this as quick as I did, because without those
Mhm.
techniques, I would have to like place the individual robots one by one, which is not smart.
Mm.
I actually did that, and
Mhm.
I'm like, there's got to be a smarter way to do this. And then so I went ahead and figured it out. And there's obviously you could tell there's a pattern, and it's I'm using for the people who are watching using Blender, I've I applied the objects with a modifier with a array modifier, and then after taking that array modifier, I applied another modifier. It's called a curve modifier, and so basically it takes that object and repeats it itself on a curve. And so that's it's actually right here. See, ray modifier right here, and also a curve modifier.
Mhm.
So basically, it makes a whole bunch of copies of itself onto a
Oh,
curve
cool.
like
All
that. Yeah.
along that.
Yeah, on
Ah,
along the path. The same path that we're taking right now, that's
brilliant.
yeah, on the camera, that's locked onto the path. Again, I'm trying to be as lazy as possible, since sometimes when you're lazy, you come up with like, you know, good productive solutions. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of being as lazy as possible while getting
Yeah.
the work done. Make the computer do it if you can.
Yeah.
That's why we have these machines.
So Michael, if I'm right that the path right now it's okay, slow it down maybe 10 to 25%. Um, and we'll just use this as is right now. Do you think? And also I want to create more of I would like to create more of these moments right here, the Indiana Jones moments where you actually, pick a choose and something like that. I want to have a fun discussion slash work session of what kind of different ways we could psych the players out. I mean, it's not as important, but it's just
Totally.
something cool. Yep.
Speaking of which, one thing that would be really interesting is if we used, um, if there were portals, like actual like gateways, or like somebody mentioned it or not last time, but in one of the previous sessions about like an iris door, right? The one that's
Oh
kind of
yeah,
like the aperture
heavy.
on a
I
camera,
think
the,
heavy.
the
Yep.
thing.
Yep. Hmm.
Um, we could maybe have some of those in here with like a big red thing that you can shoot up in one of the corners.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And when you are approaching the door, it's closed. You have to
Yep.
shoot that thing, and then once it blows up, then it opens
Ooh,
and you fly through it.
cool.
So you could have, and if you don't shoot it, then you crash into the thing. Um,
Mm-mm.
and maybe you don't crash and die, but you take damage
Yeah. Right. Right. Right.
on your way through. So it could do something like that where you kind of like need the player to shoot something to open something. You could also have there be debris that they need to actually uh, that's completely like blocking the pathway.
Hmm.
Um, You could also maybe engineer some like cinematic moments where you're approaching and you're supposed to like go through one. So it's like from your perspective, you're flying this way and it looks like, oh, I'm supposed to go through this tunnel piece here. But when you enter like near that space, maybe something like crashes down in front of it, blocks it, and then you
Oh
have to like
yeah.
dive downwards.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. That's cool.
Another thing that might be neat, but I'm reluctant to suggest it because I really like the idea of building the claustrophobia up to the big reveal moment, is there could be a part where you kind of poke out into space again, or like
Hmm.
maybe there's some kind of like little tunnel offshoot, or like a hole gets blown out in the side and you fly out of that and you're like, oh, I'm in space, and then you come back into the tunnel again.
Hmm.
um I'm just throwing stuff out there for, to create more of these sort of like these cinematic uh, set piece moments that you're talking about.
Yeah.
We don't need to use any or all of them, um, but
Yeah. I
yeah,
think that
I've
the crashing down
go ahead.
surprise moments where it like diverts our path, that actually works too. I really like that.
Um, ooh, we could also do a scene or like a shot where you're in the tunnel. Maybe it's like a little bit wider, and it looks like, ooh, smooth sailing, no obstacles, no enemies. This is great. And then maybe there's like ventilation shafts that are along the sides of the tunnel, and then those get popped open, and the enemies start like just flooding out of them like a
Sure.
stream of, salmon.
So
Um,
one during the area where we have to choose, in order to achieve that effect, I had to actually make the room a little bit bigger, and so like it's like a
mm-hmm.
bigger chamber, right? And then so I totally like what you just said. I making these kind of chamber moments, a big chamber moment. I don't know what other words to use.
Sure. No,
Um,
that's
that
great.
I think that totally makes sense. Where enemies can pop out. I think that's awesome. That's a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's go like I don't know if it's essential, but it will really help create interest in this scene, to not just have everything be that same like uniform tunnel length,
Hmm.
to have a
Hmm.
lot of it be that way, because we do want to create that sense of like enclosed claustrophobia.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I think you achieve that by having a lot of it be that same sort of like very tight space,
Sure.
but have a couple of those, chamber moments where we open
Yeah.
up into like a slightly bigger space. It's still a tunnel. It still gives you
Yeah.
that feeling of like,
Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm in a much smaller space than I was before. Um,
I would say maybe 70% super tunnel space, and then 30% of it is like chamber space. So it's not 100% like
totally.
just tiny
Yeah, yeah,
tunnel.
yeah.
You kind of like start off small and then open up, and then small again and then open up, and then small again and then open up. Yeah, something like that.
And the three branching paths thing, we can absolutely obviously do it the way that you have programmed here, where it's a cinematic thing where you're looking and like, oh man, which of the three are we gonna do? But you have no control over it, just like on the Indiana Jones ride.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
just gonna go where it wants to go. I think it would be possible. Well, I know it's possible to program it to where the player can choose which one of it is they want to go down. I don't for sure know how to do that, but I've got a pretty good idea with what I know that I have a couple of ideas of how to make that happen. Like if we have just three different rails that go down, you know, rail one goes down the door on the left, rail two goes down the middle, rail three goes down the one on the right. Something could happen prior to that. I can have like a flag in the code that keeps track of like, okay, which rail is the player going to go down, and maybe it defaults to number three, like you have here.
Uh-huh.
But then maybe something the player can do something. The player can shoot a switch earlier that like maybe opens the door for path number one.
Ooh.
Maybe it's closed off by like a
Ooh.
vent or something.
Yeah.
Um, and so, and if they shoot that thing, then that little flag in the code will go like, oh, they shot the thing. Then when the player gets to that room where it forks, the code will go and look to see like, hey, is the
Cool.
flag checked? Yes, it is. Okay. Now put the player on rail number one instead of rail number
Yeah.
three. So then they
Yeah.
can go down that path.
Oh,
I
that's cool.
think we can do that.
Oh, that's awesome. That reminds me of Detroit, where if Kara doesn't get the gun upstairs, she has no gun, and then so the whole story would happen a different way. And yeah,
Oh
so
yeah,
that's cool, man.
exactly.
I love that. Yeah, if you could program that, that would be great. Obviously, do
I
do what you can. I will try to push the envelope, but if we can get
sure.
that, that would be cool. If not, then we'll just have one route. Whichever works best.
Right, yeah. And the cool thing about that is especially because at least in the current incarnation of the game, well, actually, even if we made this game like the full, I keep using the number 15. That's just an arbitrary number. But the full 15 level game, because the nature of rail shooters is that they're pretty brief. I mean, it's kind of like to be expected. We've talked about this a couple times,
Mm-hmm,
but
hmm.
increasing replayability, uh, and that's one way to do it. Like increasing replayability in these kind of games is actually kind of important. And so something similar happens in the Star Fox games where when the first time you play it, you kind of go through the sort of like normal path, but then as you play more, you find little secrets where it's like, oh,
Mm-hmm,
if I, fly my ship and I move it all the way to the far right at this part, uh, it'll actually change onto a different path, and then I'll
hmm,
fly
hmm.
behind a waterfall and like, oh wow, there's this whole other part of the level I never got to see before.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. For
And
example,
that's
if
go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry. Remember when you say like, oh, maybe we fly outside. Well, if you blow up a certain thing and you get sucked outside, right? I mean, that works story
Ooh,
wise, right?
oh, that would be awesome, dude. Yes. What if you like shot a part of the wall or something, and
Mm.
the depressurization sucks the enemies out? So there's like a
Yeah,
whole bunch of drones. You blow out the wall, and they go, whoosh, and then you
yeah,
just fly past or something. Like, yeah, man, that could be a really amazing moment too.
yeah.
Um, but the one other thing that I was going to mention about like Star Fox that is kind of cool and adds to the replayability, at least in Star Fox 64, which is the one I cut my teeth on, is when you play that game and you beat a mission, you like get to the end, you were successful. You get one of two ending screens. You get either mission complete,
Uh-huh.
which is if you kind of just did the normal path. Uh, it means like, yep, you did it, but you didn't find everything. You didn't find the like secret path. You didn't destroy all the enemies that you needed to, or
Mm.
you didn't perform quite as well. If
Mm-hmm,
you
mm-hmm.
did find the secret path and you unlocked everything and you killed all the bad guys and saved the base without taking any damage, then it'll say mission accomplished.
Ah.
And there's actually this sort of like visceral audio and visual feedback with like mission complete. It spells out mission in like two syllables and then complete, bing bing, and it's kind of like it has some audio cues where it's like boom 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 boom, but then when it's mission accomplished, it's like the boom that comes when those words come into place and they come in like a lot slower. It's like so it just feels like yeah, mission
Nice.
accomplished, bitches. Like it's
Yeah,
so much more satisfying.
that's cool.
Um, And yeah, so anyway, we can potentially do some stuff like that too, where it's if you hit those secret switches and
Uh-huh.
find these hidden triggers that make something interesting happen in the level, then your completion percentage at the end of the level goes higher. So then maybe throughout the course of the game, you're trying to play each level and get that completion percentage to 100%. But you can only do that if you find all this, all the hidden Easter eggs and the little goodies and uh, side paths and things like that.
Sure. Sure. Well, that's cool. Nice.
Yeah.
Man, I have so much to think about. So I'm guessing my next question for you is, what do you think we should actually hold on before I ask that question? Let's take a look at the chat and see if they have. Holy cow!
Oh,
Sorry, Captain Blue Blue.
yes.
Jeez, holy cow!
Oh
Ah,
boy.
man. Sorry about that, Captain Blue Blue. I was totally in the design.
We were in
Um,
the zone.
and we were in the zone. Let me scroll up. Captain Blue Blue. Hold on. Let me pause this really quick. It's giving me a headache. What's the most important part? Jets without those jets only hurts enemies if you land on them. Oh, yeah. Um, that he's replying to Dr. Pecker. Yes. So what? Missiles are very, very important. Captain Blue also says some mid 90s rail shooters like these actually made multiple path rails. This was able to be done by using new and massive space enabled by CDs. Oh yeah.
Mm,
So, oh man, I'm
there you
curious
go.
if I'm curious if all the stuff that we talked about, Captain Blue Blue's already mentioned in the chat. Uh, if so, I apologize. We should have picked up on it. Captain Blue says basically directions arrows flash 3 seconds before a decision had to be made, and the player pressed the directions they want to go on their keys. Oh,
Oh, yep.
interesting.
I can remember a couple of those things from rail
That's
shooters. Good note,
cool.
good note.
N- Nice. Turning on and off obstacles might be a good difficult setting actually.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a really good point. Do you know what he means, Chris?
Yep. Basically hard mode. It you get more stuff you gotta
Just yeah,
weave in
more
out of. Yeah.
junk in your way, totally.
Yeah. Oh, how about some closing doors at times? Yeah, perfect. I'm gonna
Yeah.
and and uh and Dr. Pecker says for being a beginner blender, you are very good at it. Oh, thank you so much, man. I appreciate your comment and thank you. Again, it's part of me just trying to be lazy, and because I want to be lazy, I want to find out, I want to learn a new skill so that don't have to place individual things one by one, and that's just how it worked out. Apparently, being lazy sometimes is good. Captain Blue says, now I kind of want a dogfight at the end with the mini boss. A dogfight.
Mini boss.
Like a mini. I missed the first mini boss. Yeah, that's cool. Oh yeah, that's actually pretty cool. Captain Blue says, perhaps the mini boss shoots stuff and gets and uh, greets the breeze for
I
you.
think I
A
think he meant
crate.
creates
Got
debris.
it. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, I like that. And oh my God, me and Michael share brains right now. That's cool.
Nice. The
Uh,
mind meld is happening.
yeah. Both of you guys are like game designers, so that's awesome. All right, cool. Thank you so much for the comments, Captain Blue Blue. I apologize I didn't
Yeah,
see it
great notes as usual.
soon enough. So yes, Michael, what what do you think we should do next for the next session? What would you like to see? Well, let me should I make multiple paths? I mean, they all should end on they all should end right here, right? Obviously. Um I mean, obviously it's not the same exit, uh but they should all end like right here-ish, right? And then in order to enter into scene 5, right?
Mm,
Um so my
well,
question
go ahead.
Oh, okay. My question to you is, do you want to see maybe two more paths for this?
Well,
What are your thoughts?
So I'm trying to think a little bit more holistically in terms of the game development. Um, because on the one hand, I kind of feel like what you have is so effective at proof of concept of scene 4 that I would almost say, especially since I'm kind of on hiatus from doing the programming,
Mm-mm.
um, I would almost say maybe close up shop here and say like, hey, great, proof of
Oh wow.
concept on scene 4 is done. I have some really ideas. Now I'm gonna move on to the next scene and just start and kind of do the same sort of thing where you get like a proof of concept
Okay.
in 3D
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
built out. The reason I say that is because I feel like if we spend too much time, uh, do, so one thing that would be beneficial if you did want to spend a little bit more time in scene 4 would be to kind of prototype a couple of those other ideas that we had talked about. Like with a door, you don't necessarily need to animate the door, but just a way to like, oh, here's kind of like a rough idea of that size and scale
Mm-hmm.
and what it would look like closed and what it would look like open
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and maybe a moment where it looks like you're supposed to keep going straight, but then we have that sheer drop where you have to like do a quick 90-degree sharp turn downward, and then there's something else happening down there, and like, ooh, what does that look like? If you want to do a couple of those things, I think that would be an appropriate use of time. Um, but the like creating the three different paths and sort of like dialing in like, okay, this is path number 1, this is path number 2, and this is path number 3, and they all kind of meet up here, and here's what's in each one. And at this point, I think maybe we shouldn't do that because we still need to figure out what the speed is moving through
Mm.
those spaces. And once that's determined, it could dramatically change the layout and what's in there. And it would be much less of a pain in the ass to design those three different tunnels after we've established here's the speed of the ship, here's the
Mm-hmm.
way the ship moves through the space when there's obstacles that it needs to shoot. Um, so there's that. And then the final thing that I'll say is what also could be helpful, but I don't necessarily think is essential because it's something that we can tweak and figure out once we like take one of your prototype level models and import it into Unity and actually run it in the game engine would be so we could do this then, but if you
Mm-hmm.
want to experiment now, you could try to play with the speed and see like, okay, here's a couple different speed settings of us flying through here. You don't even need to change anything that you already have. You could
Mm-hmm.
just make like three different uh, speeds at which we fly through the level. Maybe like the original speed. Here's like, half the speed. Here's even here's half of that speed,
Mm.
and then we can kind of get a feel for like, oh, okay, at 25% speed, it just feels pretty appropriate for us to be able to like target and shoot things. So
Yeah.
maybe that's the speed we need to be traveling at when we want the player to shoot stuff.
Right.
But in other parts, actually at 75% speed, feels really fun and amazing when there are no enemies and there's just obstacles and you got to kind of like try to pay attention and do this dodging and weaving thing.
Right.
So we can like vary the speeds in those spaces. But the speed's going to determine what we should be expecting the player to be doing from a game design perspective. Um, and that's something that would probably be, I think, more difficult and less fruitful to do in Blender than it would be to do in Unity, if that makes sense.
Well, I'm sorry. Say that. Say the last sentence one more time. Which one's more fruitful?
I think the if the objective is to figure out like what feels good from a gameplay perspective, that's something that I think would be more fruitful in Unity because we can
Got it.
actually have the game engine running and we can
Yeah.
adjust things and be like, okay, I'm going to speed this up through
Yeah.
here.
That makes
That's
sense.
too fast. I
Right.
can't actually hit things. Um, but just as sort of like to give us a rough idea of, oh, that's what it feels like to fly through the space at these different
Mm-hmm.
speeds,
Mm-hmm.
that could be something that would be helpful for for a homework assignment potentially.
Yeah. No. Okay. That sounds good. What I will do is I will adjust. I will give us different speeds. So by next Wednesday, this upcoming Wednesday, I will show you at least two, so maybe three different speeds to see how it feels passing enemies and objects and whatnot. Um, so there's that. I'll definitely do that. So that's good to know. And then the next thing that I will also do is I will go ahead and tackle scene 3, um, kind of give a very, very quick, primitive, blocky shaped. I mean, kind of like this, what we're seeing right now, just flying through the surface of the asteroid, kind of like the mining colony is what we're calling it. I remember last week,
Mhm.
and just do a proof of concept. I know I did it before, but that was like, remember, it was like flying one asteroid to another, and we said like, oh,
Mhm.
that might be a little bit too repetitive. Well, what if I just do one asteroid and then just fly, in circles
Oh
around that one
yeah.
asteroid, right?
Sure.
So we don't have to create one and another and another, and we just basically, it's that animation trick, right? You're on this planet, it's circular, but you're just flying around it. I mean, it's like infinite, right? It's infinite loops. So I'll go ahead and try that by next on Wednesday, and we'll just see how
Sure.
that feels.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we could have like our own little homage to Super Mario Galaxy in there, which is,
Mm.
did you play? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. That was
Yeah,
fun.
I'm cool with that.
Cool, cool. All right, sweet. I got my homework, and thank you, Michael. Thank you, CaptBluBlu. Oh, BlueBlue says branching paths at this point only really serves the purpose of the path to do other things.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's true.
or
That's
provide
true.
different experiences. So like if
Yeah,
you
yeah.
have one path that's much more challenging than the other
Hmm.
path, than the default path, than the players who are working towards like I'm gonna hit 100% on this level.
Mm.
Like okay, you got to go down path number 3, but it's gonna be really tough. Um, yeah, or even having uh, different moments or maybe even different enemies in there. That's something that can happen in the Star Fox games. Is if
Mm.
you find the secret path, you can actually potentially fight a completely different boss. I'm not saying we need to design a whole new boss
Sure, sure,
because
sure, sure.
I don't want to keeping the producer hat on. I don't
Yeah,
want to add
yeah.
scope.
Ah,
But yeah, the point being, just from a design perspective, that could be like a really cool surprise for the player to
yeah,
find that hidden path. Like, oh wow,
yeah.
normally you play this and you fight this boss, but if you go down this way, you fight this totally other boss.
Yeah, I just, I mean, what if, like, for example, no, 0 to 100%, right? From 0 to 10%, if the player is able to destroy all the enemies within 0 to 10%, then he basically unlocks like a more difficult path, right? And then from then
Yeah.
on, if he finishes that, it'll just branch off into more. I mean, I don't want to do too many branches, but basically, like, if you get all the enemies and obstacles and objects, debris, you hit everything, you're awarded this path, right? And then so yeah, that's
Mhm.
definitely one way to do it. So that yeah, I only
Yeah.
picked that up
And,
because you guys say stuff.
well, I mean, you're doing a hell of a job from a game design perspective, or like level design in particular, like creating these levels that are really interesting and have moments of gameplay interest. So you're not so bad yourself, Chris. Like
Uh,
I don't think you give yourself enough credit. You're actually doing
ah,
pretty good.
thank you, thank you, thank you. I try. I
Um,
try to bullshit it as much as I can.
you're a hell of a bullshitter then.
Yeah.
Um, one other thing you mentioned that actually could be really cool that I think I can figure out how to program is that idea of the better the player does at the beginning, the more difficult the rest of the level becomes. This sort of like scaling difficulty. Some games do that where, if a player is just breezing through the early parts of the level will actually dynamically adapt to that and be like, okay, now we're actually going to have even more difficult enemies, or there's going to be more of them that are going to appear in the next scene. So we might be able to do something like that where we
Cool.
can kind of like scale it up and down. Like, ooh, the player crashed into like 3 obstacles in the first
Mm,
section. Like, let's take a couple of the obstacles out of the next section so that way it's a little bit easier for them to get
yeah.
through.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Captain Blue says, I love these moments when you congratulate each other. So wholesome. Oh, oh, thanks, Captain Blue. Yeah.
all part
Um,
of, maintaining a healthy working relationship because it is not fun working with people who only criticize you and never give you a pat on the back when you do something great.
yeah, yeah. I've worked with
We've
those
both worked
people
with,
before. Yeah,
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 both of us have it.
yeah.
It's not great.
No, no
It's like,
naming
come on,
names.
man, celebrate the wins. Like,
Yes, yes.
some
Not,
people just wet blankets and like, no, I gotta find the next negative thing to focus on.
yeah,
Yeah, that might be great, but this thing is still not done.
yeah,
But this
yeah,
thing was it was just a hard nut to crack, and we did like, crack the champagne. Come on.
yeah, man. Live a little, live a little. All right, cool. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, CaptBluBlu. Thank you, Dr. Pecker, for giving me all these awesome advice. I have my objectives for next session, and I will do my best to do it, to accomplish it. And so yeah, that's all I have on my end. Thank you so much, man. Michael, do you have anything you want to share with us? Not anything game related at all. Right now we can just sit back and just, chill, have a little bit of a Q&A session. Hold on, let me not disconnect. I want to
Sure.
stop streaming. And so it's just us. And right now is the perfect time for me to give CaptBluBlu his drink.
Yeah.
CaptBluBlu has
What's Captain Blue Blue
I
having?
I believe it's a rum and coke. I think that's what he said last time. Let me double
Oh,
check.
nice. It sure looks
I
like a rum and coke to me.
think it's a rum and coke. Is it a rum and coke? I think it's a rum and coke. I don't. Yeah, rum and coke. Good. Yay. Dr. Pecker
Nice.
says,
Nailed it.
looking at it from an outside view looks like a roller coaster. I know.
It sure
Yeah.
does.
Totally. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean that's definitely one thing about game design that's super cool. I think for us coming from the theme park world is like
Mm,
there's so many restrictions in building theme parks because you are limited by real world limitations and realities and safety compliance and
yeah.
on a roller coaster. There's only so many G's you can put a human body through before they get sick or pass out or die. But in video games, all of those things are stripped away. Like you do whatever you want, and there's no concern for cost. Like, oh, you want this roller coaster to be, 18 miles long and go 300 miles an hour? Sure, no problem. There's no like the cost to do that in real life would be just astronomical.
Yeah. Right.
Um, so yeah, so having I don't know, it's a little bit like, you know, having all the training wheels and the restrictions taken off, and you're just like, oh hey, go wild, kids. Like, ooh,
Yeah.
this is cool.
Yeah.
This is new.
Yeah.
It's different. Um,
A question to
yeah,
Dr. Pecker. How many G's can a pilot take when he's, in the cockpit, flying the jet?
yeah,
Let us know.
because
I'm
those
I'm actually
jets
curious.
do a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. And I know for a fact that one of the roller coasters that I was on, maybe it was in Universal Studio, they actually had to slow down or fix the roller coaster because apparently the bank this is called the bank, right? Like it banks and then it goes up and then it goes down. It apparently like applied so much G-force to a lot of the people, the guests, that they actually passed out. And I'm like, ah, that's bullshit. That's stupid. Let me ride this. And then so I got on. I I I I
And you
I
passed out?
I didn't like I didn't pass out or anything, but at one certain point where it was notorious for that little angle, I started blacking out a little bit. I mean, I was
Whoa.
still conscious, but I could see the stars and the blackness coming, and I was very very conscious of it. So I was like, shit, this is a lot of G's. This is a lot of G's. But I was like, wow, yeah, I'm glad they pulled back on whatever part they did because I did experience that almost blacking out. I was very very conscious because
Wow.
I was looking for it. I was expecting it, and then when it happened, I was like, okay,
Mm.
okay, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. Oh shit! And then finally when it was leveling off, I was like, oh my god! It's like, whew. That's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't I
really crazy.
I don't remember which roller coaster it was, but I had a lot of fun. I love roller coasters. I freaking love it. And Dr. Pecker says I've heard people can take up to 9. I work on F-16s. Oh, that is so awesome. And the pilots don't really talk to
Wow.
us since we are the smaller guys, and all the pilots are usually officers. Ah, well,
Interesting. I didn't know
interesting.
that.
Wow. That I would love to
Man,
get, yeah, but
9. That seemed, well, I mean, I'm sure he's right, but holy crap, that's so much. Because if I'm not mistaken, that's like 9 times the amount of gravity. So like if you weighed 200 pounds, that's like 1,800 pounds. Like you would feel like you weighed 1,800 pounds. I think I could be completely mistaken. If I
wow.
am, Dr. Pecker, please correct me. Like, bitch, you don't know what you're talking about. Um, but yeah, because wow, that's
Wow.
intense.
That is crazy. CaptBluBlu says, heard of a the proposed the roller coaster designed by an engineer artist to kill people by gigantic loops? Yes,
Oh
yes,
yeah. Yep.
I've seen a documentary on that. It's like the shit, I can't say the
Euthanasia.
euthanasia roller coaster. It's basically like a whole bunch of like different loops, and
Hmm.
it's supposed to like kill them. Yeah, I've definitely heard of it, and I don't know what became of that. That's pretty crazy, man.
I mean, yeah, if you like love roller coasters, that'd be a hell of a way to go. And
Yeah,
you're like, I hate the world, but I love roller coasters. So this is how I'm gonna go.
yeah, that's insane, man. But yeah, Dr.
Yeah.
Pecker, thank you so much for sharing that. That's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Captain Blue says, "Well, I suppose they said no because yeah, they don't exist. Thank goodness." Oh, jeez. Oh man. So
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah,
Like
Michael,
you
do you have
imagine
any?
like, oh hey, so let's go on this roller coaster. You could take people on it that you're convince your enemies like, oh, hang on, I'm gonna go do something real quick. You go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Uh, but yeah. So Michael, do you have anything you want to share with us at all?
Oh, yeah. Um, so just chatting wise, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, as a quick recap, um, I've got a whole lot on my plate, a whole lot going on, and got basically a little overwhelmed. Or yeah, both like overwhelmed and also like not really able to commit as much time and energy to any one individual thing as I would like. So thanks to the advice and encouragement from Chris, I'm taking a bit of a step back. I'm putting basically all of my software development stuff on hold, which included, completing the CS50 course, uh, the Swift iOS development in order to develop like apps, and then Unity development. So I'm kind of putting that stuff on the back burner for now while I focus on getting a couple of other things squared away. The most uh, current of which is my book that's out, Blockbuster Blueprint. I'm creating a revision, like a revised edition of that will also come with an audiobook version, which I'm also working on. Uh, Once I get those released, then I'm going to come back into the fold, spend more time on actually developing our rail shooter game because I'd like to kind of get those things done it out of the way, and they're much like nearer term projects that I can tackle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of the stuff that I'm doing right now is kind of related to that. It's working on that book. A lot of the research that I've been doing into like, okay, I'm gonna relaunch this thing. I'm gonna create this like revised edition. Um, and I'm going to do an audiobook. So doing research about, okay, how do I do the audiobook? Like, what's the software I need? What kind of equipment do I need? Doing tests with like various microphones. And most recently, I'm building a sort of like home audio booth, like a sound booth, because typically when professional recorded audio is done in a room or a studio that is acoustically dampened, so that way sound doesn't vibrate off the walls.
Mhm.
And in the apartment that I'm in, I've got like there's no carpet. I've got this like cove ceiling. It's really tall, so it's basically an auditorium in here. Like the sound is just reverberating like crazy. And the only reason why I don't sound terrible right now is because this microphone's got like very localized detection for audio.
All right.
Um, but this microphone is not quite up to snuff for recording audiobooks. I mean, this is perfect for like live recording, but it does have a little bit of that sort of like sportscaster kind of a sound. And I've got a different microphone that is a little bit better and a little bit cleaner than this one, and I'm going to use that one. The problem with that one, though, is that it's not quite as localized, so I'm going to need more sound dampening. So anyway, all of that is just to say that I've been trying to figure out, like, okay, I live in a little studio apartment. Like, how do I create a sound booth? Um, and I got some moving blankets, which are like the sort of poor man's
Mm.
acoustic dampening. But a lot of professionals that I've run into are like, don't bother with like actual like foam acoustic panels. Just get moving blankets. Like they're really good.
Mm.
Um, so I've got a couple of those. I'm gonna experiment with a couple of things. I've got like this really tall bar table that I'm going to try to like encapsulate in these moving blankets and then like get underneath it, kind of like a little like, like when you were a kid and you would make like
Yeah,
forts, right? Like I'm
forts.
gonna make a
Yeah,
little sound booth fort
that's cool.
and I'm gonna
That's
go
awesome.
in there and I'm gonna try to record and see like how that sounds. Um, so I've been working on that. I've got and of course that's a whole thing in a deal because I had to like source the moving blankets and figure out, okay, how do I get these things to wrap around this bar table. And at first I thought like, okay, well, maybe I go to like the Home Depot and get these like clamps and like, wrap it around there and clamp them together, kind of like clothespins.
Hmm.
But while I was there, I found these Velcro strips that are specifically designed with an adhesive for fabrics. And I thought,
Oh,
that would be
nice.
even better than clamps. If I could just like put these strips on top of each other and then like, attach
Oh,
the blankets that way. So I'm going to try that
oh,
and see how that
oh,
works.
oh.
Um, so that project's coming together. I'm just about ready to like assemble the thing, probably in this coming week, and give it some sound tests. So I'm doing that. In the meantime, I'm continuing to do the revision of the book, uh, which is also going to incorporate a couple of notes that I've gotten from people over the years. Because the original version of that book was released about 5 years ago, and I have since gotten a lot of feedback from people who have read it and who have talked to me, and also people who have left reviews on Amazon. They've made a couple of comments about things that they liked, things that they wished it had, and things that they think would be better. So I'm going to try to incorporate some of those things. Um, and oh,
Michael, sorry,
yes,
sorry. Just let you know that Horizon Onward. Hey, Horizon Onward. He says, hey,
Horizon,
Michael.
welcome.
There are also programs that are good at filtering out echo and other sounds.
Ooh,
NVIDIA Broadcast is a good free one. That
hmm.
might also be a good way instead of soundproofing. Also, hi everyone. Hello. How you doing, Horizon? I
That
got your
is
Dr.
an
Pepper out
excellent
as well.
tip. NVIDIA broadcast. I'm just going to make a note for myself to look into that later. That's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. It's good to see you, man.
Um, yeah, well, um, what else? Oh, yeah. So the other big thing too is in which we saw in my like, mind map from last week when I kind of traced back the sort of writing projects that I'm doing, everything kind of funnels back to book cover and branding because that's really, really important. And I would even, as blasphemous as it is to say, I would even go so far as to say that I think the cover and the branding of the book is the most important thing, like more important than the actual content of the book. And the reason for that is because everybody judges a book by its cover. Everybody, including people who like reading and know the value of, and know that some books can have really bad covers and be amazing books, and some books can have really incredible covers but be absolute shit inside.
but they
Despite
excel.
that, exactly.
Yeah.
Human beings are just programmed to like respond to the packaging, to respond
Hmm.
to the outside. So it doesn't matter how good the book is if nobody's buying it, nobody's reading it. And the only way to get people to do that is with really strong branding and really strong covers. And so I've been working on that too, learning Affinity Designer, which is um, Affinity Designer is a program that's kind of similar to Adobe Illustrator, but it's like a competitor, and it's like you pay a one-time fee and then you have it forever, as opposed
One
to
time fee.
Adobe's. So, yeah, as opposed which Adobe used to be that way. You used to be able to buy Adobe software. It was pretty expensive. I think it was like more than
Yeah.
$100, a couple hundred
It was.
bucks. But
Yeah.
once you had it forever.
Hmm. Hmm.
Now on like a monthly software as a service model, which I'm not completely opposed to. Like I think it's actually kind of cool that instead of having to like in the old days you would have to buy Photoshop 4 and then a year or two later like oh Photoshop 5 is out now and I have to buy it all over again if I want to get the
Yeah.
new features. Um, or you could say like, the new features don't really appeal to me. Like I don't really need that stuff. What I have now is perfectly fine. I'm just going to stick with what I already have. Um, it is cool that you don't have to make that decision anymore. Now you can just like, hey, I've got the software and it just updates automatically with the newest stuff, the latest and greatest. Like that's great. You don't have to think about it. So software as a service like makes sense to me. I just think the pricing's pretty intense for some. At least for me personally,
Yep.
I can't justify spending that much money every month for software. Because for like I believe for the full Adobe Creative Suite, it's $60 a month. That for all of their software. Whereas Affinity Designer, Affinity Photo, Affinity Publisher, there's three. Each of those I think is $60 for a lifetime. Like then you have
Forever.
yeah, you don't have to keep paying. Now, granted, they're not quite as powerful as Adobe. It's a much smaller company, much smaller team, but they're working really hard to try to like catch up. And for for the vast majority of people, I think um, you will be able to do just about everything in one of those that you could do in one of the actual more expensive Adobe pieces of software. So anyway,
Hmm. Hmm.
all that is just to say I'm in the affinity camp. Uh, Not that I have, that I dislike Adobe in any way. It's just kind of out of my price range, especially as like an independent content creator.
Hmm.
Um, I need to pinch those
Yep.
pennies.
Yep. Yep.
Uh,
Same here. Same here.
and I like supporting the underdog too. So
Yeah, totally. Really quick, Horizon says, I use it when I stream. I'm doing good. I hope everyone is doing good as well. Yeah, I'm doing well. Michael's doing well too. Yeah, thank you so much for being here. It's always good to have you, Horizon. CaptBluBlu says, Photoshop is also one of the most pirated software for a reason. Yep. It's too good to not have, too expensive to have. That's why I changed to Clip Studio Paint. Yeah, I'm right there with you. So Michael, when I was in Japan, I don't know who I was having this conversation with, one of the artists, or or one of the producers, and someone was asking me, "Hey Chris, so there's an easy way to do this. You could just put a filter on it, and bam, you're done." And I'm like, I'm looking at my Photoshop. I have CS6. It's like a really old paid version from a long time ago. And so I'm like, I I don't have that filter. And he's like, no, it's right there. It's right under Windows filter, blah 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 blah. I'm like, I don't have it. And he's like, wait, what version are you using? I'm like, I'm using CS6. They're like, wait, you're not using CC2 or CC plus or whatever the fuck it's called right now. And I'm like, no. He's like, you're still using CS6? I forget who this was. Um, and so I was just like, yeah, sorry, I refuse to pay a stupid subscription. But Michael, you actually made a good point. Before our meeting, we were basically saying like, hey, if Photoshop actually just did $20 a year, hell, $40 a year for the whole suite, I'm down with that. I'm a cheap motherfucker, but $40 is not too bad for a year. But $60 per month, is that what you said, Michael? $60 a month?
Yeah, for all of their software.
All the software. $60 a month? That's a shit ton of money, man. So
Yeah.
I totally agree with Captain Blue. I wanted a new drawing software because granted when I do line art in Photoshop, it's not the best line art. I just don't like doing line art in Photoshop. It doesn't feel right. As as much as I play with the settings, I just can't get a nice pencil brush. It's irks me for years. And then finally, Clip Studio Paint came out. I was like, holy cow! I downloaded the demo and I was like, their pencil thing is good. It's legit. And then so bam, I paid for it. It was maybe 50, $80. I don't remember how much it was, but one time pay lasts forever. Count me in, man. And then so I too myself, I also use Clip Studio Paint for line art. But when I do painting stuff, I go back to what I'm more familiar with. I'm one of those, you can't teach a dog new tricks. I just basically, just use Photoshop for what I need to do. But yeah. Oh, your neighbor Toto Richard. Hey, how you doing? Hey guys, the
Hey,
yearly
we know that
minimums
guy.
all on SaaS stuff kills me these days. What does a SaaS stand for?
Software as a service.
Ah, nice. I did not know that acronym. Yeah, it's absolutely horrendous. I do not like it. I don't like it. I'm a cheap mofo, so that's why I bought Clip Studio Paint and I'm still using CS6. Yeah.
Yeah, like philosophically, I'm not opposed to it. It's just so freaking expensive.
Mm.
Yeah, if it was half the price it is, well, even had what $30 a month, that's still so much money. Like especially because I feel like, and I'm a bit of a novice here, so maybe there are certain professionals out there who would like have a strong disagreement with what I'm about to say, but I feel like some of those programs are just there's so much functionality, so many features, but 80% of the people out there only use like 20% of the software.
That's me.
And yeah, and so I feel like why don't they just have a version that's like, hey, here's like Creative Cloud Lite. Here's the stuff that we know based on data analytics. The vast majority of people only use these things, so we can offer that at this significantly reduced price. Um, I don't know, because yeah, it's perfectly fine, I think, and maybe this is the reason why that price is so inflated is because that's not that much to pay for a company like a big company like Disney or something, who are actually probably going to be paying enterprise level uh, rates and fees. But for them, it's like that's small potatoes to ensure that we've got the full creative suite installed on every single computer for every person who needs to do stuff for every designer. But for like a independent freelancer contractor, like that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money to
Mhm.
be spending every month. Um,
Yeah.
but
I,
anyway,
I
so
yeah. I think I had this conversation with you. I told you that in Photoshop, I probably use 3% of its maximum potential. All I do is just paint and move stuff around, and that's all I do. All the other amazing stuff that you can do with CS6, I never touch because I just don't use it at all. I don't need it. I don't. I mean, it would probably behoove me, if that's like the $5 word, to actually learn those functions. But again, I'm a lazy mofo, and that
mhm.
time, a lazy mofo in a way that I probably should learn those functions, but I just use what I know and with what works. But yeah. Uh, Captain Bublu says it's up there with games as a service. Yeah. They do have a
Mm,
light version. You get Photoshop Elements, for $30 a month or something. Who uses Photoshop Elements? That's like a light version of Photoshop. I remember they had like Photoshop Elements, and in class, I'm like, why is there elements? That's so. Anyways, and elements in Photoshop I think keeps the photos retouching stuff and cuts out the drawing stuff. So Photoshop is just purely for photo.
Um,
Oh, okay, okay. I should finish reading this
gotcha.
stuff before I start talking
Makes
out of my
sense.
ass. Yeah. Um. Yeah.
Still expensive. Like, I think that's
Yeah.
crazy expensive.
Yeah. I don't like it. I don't like it, Michael. I don't like it.
But at any rate, not to turn this into a let's bash
Yeah.
on Adobe's business model. Um, so I've been learning Affinity Designer and working a lot on figuring out this sort of like branding and cover art stuff, which will also help for future Creative Tavern projects down the road.
Mm,
Little teaser, stay tuned for that. Um, so that's kind of like what I've been spending a lot of my time doing and working on, and have been making quite a bit of progress, and feel like in the coming weeks I should be able to wrap up a couple of those things, get the new book out, and spend and then kind of like come back into the fold and spend more time actually completing more Unity tutorials and doing more programming for the game. That way we can kind of like get through the final stretch and get that thing to the finish line at some point here. Um,
nice.
Anything else? I think that's pretty much it. I mean, I've also been doing like some research into the way big professional companies do their branding and logos and things like that. Because
Hmm.
um, because part of the interest, from the creative collaboration between Chris and I is that Chris is an amazing artist, and I'm very interested in typography and trying to get to the point where I can actually, do some things with like graphic design, and we can kind of like combine those two things together to make like some really awesome, um, you know, brand like on brand, market appropriate
Hmm. Hmm.
uh, digital assets that can kind of uh, act as this sort of packaging for the video game that we're making, or books or apps or whatever it is. Um,
I
so
mean,
yeah. Anyway,
we kind of did it once. I mean, the logo that you guys see right there, the Creative Tavern, that took a collaborative effort because between me and you, Michael, and I guess the rest of the world, I hate graphic design. I mean, I respect people who do it, but I can't do it. It's hard, man. Like trying to get the positioning of the fonts like aligned and make sure it looks good, it feels balanced and it's not off centered. It takes me hours to do something that a professional could do probably minutes. So it's just really, really frustrating. And in order to create that logo that you guys see currently, it took a combined force of Michael and I trying to bash it out and and trying to make it look good. So yes. Sorry, I don't know what we were talking about. Oh yes, yes, the
as soon
collaborative
as I
effort
said
of the
graphic design, you're like, "Urgh."
yeah. But yes, whatever we need to do, it's always good to have more than two people working on one project. If you're weak on something, never be ashamed to seek help. So yeah, yeah, very cool.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you guys have any questions for us at all? And by the way, Richard, meet Captain Blue Blue. Captain Blue Blue, meet Richard. Horizon, everyone. Yeah. Richard is one of our dear friends that we worked with in Japan. And yeah, Michael, you could probably talk a little bit about Richard. I mean, you don't have to go too deep into it, but Richard is one of our good buddies.
Yeah. Um, Yep. So the quick version would be uh, Chris and so I went to Japan to work on Super Nintendo World, and I was there for I think maybe about a year, and then Richard joined the project. That's where I met Richard. In fact, I distinctly remember like the very first day I got to know Richard was uh, we had to go we had to leave the construction site or like our home offices to go to a different office in like downtown Osaka, and it was like Richard's first time being there, or it was like one of his first days, and so I knew where the meeting was because I'd been to that meeting every week for a year at that point. And so my producer at the time, the producer above me, was like, "Hey, can you help make sure Richard gets to where he's going? We really, he's going to be a really important part of this project because of the piece that he's going to be managing." So I was like, "Yeah, sure." So I remember that train ride, because one of the things about living in Japan that's so amazing is that there are trains and subways that go everywhere, and
It's
so
awesome.
if you do any amount of traveling, you'll spend a lot of time on the train. And that was my first train ride with Richard, where we kind of got to catch up, and he let me know like his background, where he'd kind of come from, the cool things that he was doing, and cool stuff with like rock work and sculpture and like zoos and animal exhibits and things like that. Um, but anyway, yeah, so that's how I met Richard, and he was an instrumental part of the Super Nintendo World project. And a little bit later, Chris joined the project as well, came on to help us with some really critical art assets that were just not getting done. And so Chris really saved the day there, and the three of us kind of became really, really good friends and
Yeah.
had a lot of conversations in Japan about a lot of the content that we're talking about with you guys now, because that's just the sort of thing that interests us. And yeah, and so we've been, really uh, touting the Creative Tavern and all the cool stuff we're doing here, and so we piqued Richard's interest, and now we've got him in the chat. So
Yeah.
welcome, Richard. Good to
Yeah,
have you.
welcome, Richard. And Michael and I was actually featured in. Actually, no. Michael. Let me get this right. Michael was co-hosting with Richard's podcast.
Hmm.
Richard has a podcast, and he actually provided a link in our Discord. Oh. So hold on. Let me put. If you guys are interested, take a look at our Discord. It's all in the social link down there. And yeah, you could totally find one of his posts of his podcast. And Richard, if you're still you're there, if you want to plug your podcast, feel free to put your stuff in there as well as all you guys in the tavern. Again, you guys have full permission to promote your work, share your stuff, either here on this chat right now or on the Discord as well. Our tavern is your tavern. Obviously, be as mature and appropriate as possible, because we don't want to get in trouble and with Twitch and everything. So yeah, we were so happy to see you, Richard. Yeah, very cool, very cool. Okay. Oh, hold on. Let me go up. Let me go up. Hey guys. Oh, Richard says, "Hey guys, great to be here. I've seen many of your works in Discord channel." Yep. Dr. Pecker says this was a good stream. Yay! For once, I don't have any questions. Oh, good job today. Thank you so much, man. CaptBluBlu says, "Very good stream. Yay!" Richard says, "Glad to meet you, Captain, Cap and Doctor and Horizon." Yeah. Captain Blue says, "I wonder if you would have to put on your producer hats again. I want to ask I want to ask of you two to mention one competitor game that you would have to compete with your game." Oh God. Um,
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. Like
No Man's
I'm.
Sky. Suck it, No Man's Sky. We're coming for you.
Oh
Hurrah!
no, that's ambitious. Okay, well, it's so much for limiting scope and progress. The scope of
I
this
know, right?
project just got enormous. We're gonna need a much bigger team.
I know. Sorry. Go ahead, Michael.
That was a really good answer. I
Thank
mean,
you.
honestly, I don't. I probably should know this. I don't really know. Um, for So I know plenty of rail shooter games that we're drawing inspiration from, but I wouldn't necessarily consider like Star Fox 64 to be a competitor. Um, because anybody who's played that game has already bought and played that game, and even like somebody who is deciding on like, "Ah, I want to buy a rail shooter. Uh, regardless of what we do, I think they're gonna also buy any new edition of Star Fox that Nintendo puts out. So I can't really count that. Um, and part of the reason for us doing this is not because we did a bunch of market research to say, okay, let's look at these different video game genre niches and find the one that has a lot of interest and low competition, and we're going to make a game in that. The reason we're doing this is mostly just because we're interested in learning how to make games, and this happens to be the type of game that I was learning in a tutorial that gave me the confidence to approach Chris and say like, "Hey, Chris, I'm learning how to make this thing. I feel like we might be able to take what I'm learning here and put our own spin on it and actually make something that people can play." So it wasn't this sort of like calculated decision about whether or not this was like, "Hey, Chris, we're gonna strike oil and make our fortune making video games, and here's the one that we're gonna do." It wasn't anything like that. It was just like, hey, this happens to be the game that I'm making. It's a genre we both like. What do you say we see if we can actually do this? And it's really very much just an experiment. And so we really
Mm.
haven't talked about market competition in any regard. But as we get closer to the finish line, maybe that's something we'll look into a little bit more and see if we can kind of distinguish ourselves, um, or maybe add things that people of our competitors are saying are lacking. Like, oh, it'd be great
Mm.
if the game had this. Like, oh, let's put that in there. But that's a really good question. Very smart
That's a
question to ask.
Yeah, that's a great question. Obviously, you know, I saw Horizon Onward play No Man's Sky, and I was very, very, very inspired. And I was like, "Holy cow, Michael, have you heard of this game, No Man's Sky?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Oh, am I the only one into living under a rock?" Apparently, I was. And that game, like, basically kind of rekindle the fires like, oh wow, Michael, I kind of want to create that kind of a flying in space game, and that's kind of what it is. Obviously we're nowhere near, and I want to be very, very humbled and say that that team went through hell in order to make what they have, so much respect for that team. But yeah, for me, to be super, super, super honest, this is a kind of a for me it's kind of like practice, right? I'm not to denigrate or put down our game, Michael, but it's kind of a practice for me to create digital assets, just do this project, see if we could actually complete it, and it could be good, it could be not good. People might receive it well, but they might not. But to be honest, I'm kind of just learning, through this whole process of creating 3D assets. What's the best way to do things? If I'm lazy, instead of, doing it multiple thousands of times, what's the easiest way to do things? I'm learning stuff in Blender that I never probably would have wanted to learn until this moment in time. And then so by going through this project, this experience, I'm able to pick up new skill, and so hopefully that whatever I learn can just serve our greater purpose later on, as we you know continue our creative journey together. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And definitely not like I don't take it as denigrating the work that we're doing in any way at all. And I love that you use the word practice because,
Mm.
as Richard will know, that's a really important word when it comes to creative work because it's it has kind of like two different meanings I think that are important to the creative professional. On the one hand, it's I think the first thing that pops in your mind when you think of practice, like, oh yeah, practice makes perfect. Like if you want to learn how to get good at tennis, you got to practice every day. But on the other hand, there's also a meaning of like a doctor. A doctor has a practice. A lawyer has a practice. It's a profession that they do, that they show up and it's their job every day. And the more that they do it, the better that they get at it. But it's this thing that is, it's this idea that it is both something you do to get better at, but it's also like the work that you put out into the world. That is the practice. It is showing up, doing your creative work, shipping it, getting it out into the world. That way people can interact with it, can benefit from it. You can learn from their feedback and make adjustments to what you're going to do next. Um, that is what the practice is. It's it's essential to the creative process, and it's really important not to get wrapped up in I need to make a thing that is perfect and polished and yada 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 and is eh, if you try to if you focus too much on the like end product of like this thing needs to blow everybody else out of the water, at least for me what happens is I get paralyzed. I can't move
Mm.
forward. But if I
Yeah.
treat it as like, hey, I'm just learning new skills and I'm gonna, I'm gonna practice on this thing.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm, mhm,
it removes those roadblocks and magically I get better, the thing gets better, and before long you have a thing that's like, hey, this is actually worth sharing with people. Like this is pretty
mm,
neat. And so that was kind of the whole idea here. It's a thing that gives us an opportunity instead of what we were doing, which was like in secret, just the two of us, not publicly, not sharing with anybody what we were doing, and just kind of continuing to work on a thing. Instead of doing that, now this is like an opportunity to to practice in public and potentially make a thing that actually will end up going out into the world and being a commercial product, potentially.
mm.
Um, and really, that's all professional work is either. It's just those the longer you have your practice, the more professional the products get out the other end. Uh, but the actual work that you do, your habits, your routine, the way you approach, I show up, I do my work, I ship the thing, and then
Mm.
the next day I show up, I do more work, I ship the thing. That never changes.
Yeah.
So if you just keep that process forever, then eventually you're going to start making stuff that's really cool. And then you can actually
Yeah.
start having conversations about like, okay, here's what we're going to try to do with this thing in terms of getting something out the other end, because by then you've built your skill and your practice enough that uh, it's not just about okay, I'm going to try to do something that I've never done before and learn all these brand new skills. Now it's that same thing, but it's on a different level. It's what have I not done before that I can do on the next project? And when you've been in the practice for so long and are so good that each project you're doing is like of a world class level, you look at somebody like like a Stephen King, like one of the best novelists alive today. Um, each new project that he does, when he says I'm going to do something that I've never done before, it's potentially something the world has never seen before. Whereas earlier in your practice, it's not going to be the case. Something that you've never done before might be old news, like a whole bunch of other people might have done that. That's no big deal. You just keep doing that until eventually you get to a point where then you are in that territory, where you are doing things that have never been done before. Um, don't really know where I was going with that. Sometimes this happens. I just get on these like
No, it's good.
these
It's
rants,
good.
but
Totally
hopefully that
awesome,
was
man.
helpful.
Yeah, no, that's great. Captain Blue says, just a thought. Oh, hold on. Captain Blue says, well, I'm on the market for jobs again, now. So, oh man, yeah, I saw your thing, and sorry to hear that, man. I hope you find an amazing job that you want and that you like, and pursue it, man. Hopefully you find it, very, very soon. And he also says, that's a thoughtful answer. I just thought of it since that's what an incubator asks me when I show them my prototype. Oh, incubate. Did I read that word right?
Yep,
Incubator?
yep. Incubator.
When an incubator
Incubator.
asks, what's an incubator?
Well, I have a vague idea of what this is. It's basically like somebody, or, well, it might not necessarily be a person. It could also be like an organization or a group of people, but it's
Oh,
basically an entity that has funding, that has money, that can
oh,
take, uh, up and coming creators or engineers or software designers or whatever. Somebody who's basically like an entrepreneur who's like, hey, I got an idea for a thing. They can kind of come under the wing of the incubator and either like go work out of their office, or in some cases, like in Silicon Valley, there are like incubator houses where a bunch of developers live there, and
oh,
they live there either at a reduced rate for rent or
sure.
for free,
Oh,
with the promise that whatever app that they're making,
mm,
the owner of the house, the incubator, gets a
mm.
share, gets a stake in the company. So then when it
Oh,
goes on to become the next Uber, that incubator will actually make a lot of money.
Oh,
So it's kind of like a venture capitalist kind of a arrangement where
got it, got
it's
it.
somebody who is going to like invest in you by providing leadership or housing or funds
Uh-huh,
while
uh-huh.
you develop your thing. And so they're going to want to see a prototype and they're going to want to know like,
Got
oh,
it.
okay, yeah, that's got market potential. Sure, come on in.
Oh, okay, cool. Thank you.
That's
Thank you
that's
for
my
that.
understanding.
Thank you for explaining that. That's awesome. We need an incubator, Michael, to, you know,
I
give
know.
support us. Just give me food. I want food.
Yeah.
Captain Blue says, I'm so glad you heard of the game now when it's good rather than the beginning when it was bad like the rest of us. Oh yeah, because they had the whole the ingoodening, right, of No Man's Sky.
Yeah, the
Yeah, like
ingoodening of No Man's
yeah,
Sky. Yep.
apparently they had like death threats and all that crazy ass
It was
shit that
nuts.
happened. That's
That's one of the
insane.
craziest stories in video game history and one of the most amazing turnarounds. It's
Mm,
really impressive, and I've got so much respect for Sean Murray and Hello Games and what that team did in the face of just an absolute disaster. So yeah,
mm,
No Man's Sky is that's a crazy story. It's a really
yeah,
impressive, crazy story.
yeah. And I'm so glad that I caught Horizon's stream when he was playing. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's so cool, you know. And I had to share it with Michael, and Michael already knew about the game, so I was enlightened. Uh, Richard says, so nicely put. Our commitment to ship the work as self-proclaimed but humble pros sounds like the most important part. Yep. When it whatever comes, we just keep our practices going. Yeah. Something that you said, well said, Richard. And Michael, something that you said when you were explaining, it basically reminds me of the phrase, just one just keep walking one foot in front of the other and just keep at it and hopefully you'll get to it and you'll be able to get to your goal and as long as you just keep walking because if you stop you become stagnant and that's not great. But hey, if you just keep the momentum going as fast or slow as it is, all you got to do is just keep doing it, and then hopefully you'll ship the product. And that's my mantra to for this game, as well as the tarot cards that I did, and various projects that I'm thinking of doing is just one step at a time. Captain Blue says Sean Murray is a good example of the right person for the wrong position. He was not cut for the public promotion back then. Uh,
Totally.
yeah. Richard
Yeah.
says Internet Historian has a great No Man's Sky short video. Yeah, I believe you sent this to
Oh
me,
yeah.
Michael. Yeah. So
Yeah.
if you guys are ignorant like me, make sure you guys check that out. So yeah.
Yeah.
So
Thanks for sharing, Richard.
yeah, thank you so much, Richard, for sharing that. Um,
I
anything else,
keep
guys?
oh,
I
go ahead.
think I think we're doing pretty good on time. Maybe 20
Yeah,
more
coming up on two
minutes.
hours.
Yeah, 20 more
Oh,
minutes. Oh, yeah.
before we wrap for the day, though, do we have anything in the community gallery that we want to
Ah,
share?
yeah, 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 yeah. Let me see. Let me see this. Let me see this. Yes, Gentleman Heavy. Gentleman Heavy, are you here? I kind of don't want to go through his stuff if he's not
Oh
here.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
he had the air museum stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you guys are in the chat, feel free to go into the Discord. And I mean, Michael, what do you think? Should we look at it now when he's not here, or just tell
Well,
the people to look at it in Discord to see the stuff that he's posted? Um, and same with
let
June.
me.
June posted some amazing artwork too, so I feel bad talking about it without them being here.
Yeah, my thoughts. So I'll spill my thoughts, and then I don't know, you tell me what you think. On the one hand, yeah, I agree. I think it makes sense to like wait till they're here. That way, if we have questions, we can ask them about it, which would probably be better. But on the other hand, I would also worry that like backlog of stuff could
Ah,
really get out of hand at a point.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and then finding things. So yeah, I guess it depends on whether or not like for Gentleman Heavy or June or whoever, if they're going to be
Mm.
watching the YouTube videos and they just want to see us like looking at it and reacting, then that's maybe helpful. But um, I don't know. Those are my thoughts. I don't have a definitive answer, but
Yeah. I mean, I can show like one or two photos, I guess, and we could chat really quick about them, and
sure.
and then we could dive right into it. Cause yeah, I agree with you, Michael, that we don't want to do the whole backlog thingy because that would be too crazy, too crazy. All right, so let me do this and let me pull this. All right, so what do you guys see right now? What do you guys see? And Michael, yeah, are you seeing anything?
Maybe I'm seeing your desktop. Yep, I'm seeing a picture of the Enola Gay. And on
Okay.
stream,
Unfortunately, on stream, I'm not showing anything at the
yeah.
moment. Hold on. Application, gallery, Discord. Boom. Okay, there it is. Unfortunately, Michael, I know we talked about popping it out. However,
hmm
because this is kind of a little bit on the fly, I hold on. Firefox? There
I
must
mean,
be a
if it makes
better
it
way.
any easier, I can just look at what we're looking at in the stream. You don't have to share it with me independently on Discord, if that's helpful.
Okay, yeah, I think that is how actually I've already opened it up, so it doesn't matter. Let's just look at one of the photos right here. Oh, you guys see it? And Michael, you see it as well?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So this photo right here, or is the Enola Gay, and
hmm
apparently this is the plane that dropped the atomic bomb in on Hiroshima, or is it Nagasaki? Hiroshima. Hiroshima,
It's
I think.
one of the two. Yeah.
It's one of the two. And I saw this and I'm just like, holy cow. Like the thing that altered the course of history is is right there, you know? Like you can
Yeah.
actually go and see it.
Yeah.
And not to mention it's in great condition, but just the fact that you have a piece of history right there that again altered the course of history. It's pretty amazing and I mean, there were many lives lost. Unfortunately, that's super sad. But the fact that you get to actually see that piece of machinery that that was there, it's pretty awesome. It's pretty cool. I would have to say.
Yeah. It's have you ever been to Air Museum, Chris?
Oh shoot. Oh, I just closed something. Sorry, Michael. I closed it on
That's
you.
okay.
The
No problem.
the
I'll just
yes.
look at it in the stream. It's fine.
Yeah. I definitely have been to one of the museums.
hmm
I've been to one of the museums in LA where there was a space shuttle. I don't remember which space
Ooh.
shuttle it was. But yeah, it definitely was one of the the spaceships. But yeah, how about you,
Cool.
Michael?
Yes, not many, but I have been to an air museum before, and the reason I bring that up is because I agree with you that there's something about being in that space, like being in the physical space and seeing these planes. Because like the one that I went to had like a really cool like World War II exhibit, and they had these like big World War II bombers, um, and the little placards and then the videos and the photos kind of like really immerse you and give you this perspective on what that must have really been like and makes it like so much more real than just like watching a video or reading it in a textbook or hearing about it in like
Mm,
a history class or something.
mm,
um yeah, there's something about it that creates this feeling of like awe, of like, whoa, this is
yeah, it
it's
connects
so
us
much
to
more.
history.
Exactly. It's so much
Yeah.
more visceral and connected to you here right now than this sort of like vague, like, oh, that's history. Like, oh yeah, this is stuff that
Mm,
happened, and I
mhm,
guess.
mhm,
But now
mhm,
it's like, oh shit, it's real. It's there. It is. Especially the things that we hear about and from like uh, a high level perspective, like the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Mm.
It's like, man, that's really awful and tragic. But when you're in that space and you're faced with the airplane that dropped that bomb, there's so much more gravity that you feel
Yeah. Yeah.
about that historical event. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's cool. Like museums and exhibits and these sorts of things are really neat, and especially from like from the from guys in the theme park industry. This is something that a lot of people in our industry do in addition to theme parks. Is a lot of people will work on exhibits and museums, helping to uh, you know set those things up. They're not quite as like flashy, whiz bang, and exciting as like theme parks, and usually don't have quite as
Budget.
deep of pocketbooks
Yeah.
as. But the work is really interesting and rewarding, especially if you really value sort of edutainment, like educational
Hmm. Hmm.
en- entertainment and content like that. So yeah, these things are really neat. I have like a
Yeah.
great appreciation for this sort of stuff.
Yeah. Totally. Captain Blue says we don't see anything. The screen is black. Oh crap. Well, hopefully you guys see it now. Captain Blue says that's the nuke bomber, right? Yep, that is. One of its sister planes probably killed more during its service just through conventional bombings and firebombing. As someone working in a museum, I could agree with Michael. Oh, cool! You work in a
Cool.
museum. That's
That's
awesome.
awesome.
Very, very cool. I didn't know that. I did not know that, Captain Blue Blue.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, so heavy. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about this later on. But see, there's like a stealth bomber. Maybe this is a stealth bomber. I know it's definitely stealth. I
Mm,
think it's stealth. No, it's not stealth.
no, I don't think
It,
so.
I know
Um,
it goes really fast, right? It's one of the fastest planes in the planet, and
Oh, that.
and it's
Oh,
like,
sorry. I'm delayed. Yes,
oh,
because I was
right,
still
right,
looking
right.
at the Enola Gay, and I was like, no, that's not a stealth bomber. But yes, the this is the Blackbird, I think.
Ah,
Um, and yeah, very fast. I think it has some stealth capacities. It's not the stealth bomber though, which is like it has like a
the
much more
flat,
like a
yeah,
right angle, like a triangular,
right, right, right.
like that looks like just kind of a I don't know how to describe it, like a wedge, I guess.
Yeah, but yeah, it's so cool. And Dr. Pecker, he made a comment here in the Discord. He said that, and that's when I found out that he was actually in the Air Force. So salute, thank you for your service, man.
Yeah,
That
thanks
he's
again.
never seen one of these in real life. So yeah, it must have been super cool. Very, very cool. Man, so freaking
And it's
awesome.
crazy too, like when you're in those spaces to get a sense of the different like scales, because some things are like way bigger than you would expect. You're like, holy crap, the
Hmm.
size of this
Hmm.
engine is enormous. And then other things are way smaller. Like
Yeah.
in some of the bombers, you see like the little gunner cockpit where the guy sits. It's like, oh my God, that's so tiny. He'd have to be
Mm-hmm.
like crouched up with his knees up around his ears to be able to fit in there. And it's
Mm.
like, well, hey, space is at a premium, and so that's the way
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah, I mean, when you say spaces at a premium, I think of like tanks, like when you're inside of a tank, or they're when they are
Mhm.
inside of a tank, right? Um, have you seen that movie Fury? Um, with
No,
Brad Pitt?
but
That's
I
a
know it.
Yeah, it's an awesome film. I love that film, which is really good. But yeah,
Cool.
Gentleman Heavy,
I'll
thank
check
you
it
so
out.
much for again posting these photos. It's really, really awesome. Thank you, man. And next thing we want to take a look at is June. June, you're yeah. But yeah, she's an amazing artist. She basically paints every single day. She literally paints every single day. Um, and she has
That's the
the
practice, baby.
yeah, she has the stream to prove it too, every freaking day. Except the days when she doesn't feel well. Obviously, then she doesn't paint, which is totally understandable. But yeah, her stuff is super, super amazing and very, very, very. She's talented, obviously, but she's also very hardworking too. But she doesn't know that she's hardworking. She's just doing it for the enjoyment of it. Um, it's not fair. Some of us have to work our ass off, and she's just doing it for fun. So it's not fair, June. You hear me? It's not fair. But keep doing what you're doing. Don't worry about life isn't fair. So don't worry. Don't worry. What I think. Just keep going. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing these. And hopefully one day you can just you know tell us how you did this and what motivates you and what's your process and all that good stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So
great.
yeah. So thank you guys so much for posting. Keep posting, by the way. Please keep posting because Michael and I love seeing your artwork in there. And again, the Creative Tavern is a place for you guys. If you guys have any stories you guys want to share, any oh, by the way, yeah, Captain Blue Blue mentioned that he was supposed to share a story or narrative or something with us. However, something happened and then so he's unavailable to share that at the moment. But if and when you have time, we will be here to take a look at it and discuss and just be in awe of your amazing talent. Um, oh, Captain Blue says, I also specialize in serious games and cultural heritage themes narration in university. Ooh, cool. Uh,
Whoa, that
I
sounds
wish
awesome.
I wish edutainment was bigger of a genre than it is. Yeah. I was like, wait, am I reading that right? Edutainment. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you got it.
I totally agree because when you do it right, it's so much fun, right? And that's one of the things that I always, try to emphasize on is when you do a presentation, you're not really just educating people, you want to entertain them because nowadays you got so many things that's fighting for people's attention. You have like Instagram, Twitter, the news, your smartphone, everything's, wants our attention. And so you have competition. So you got to make your stuff as entertaining as possible, right? Um, yeah, that black stealth bomber is probably the size of your of your space plane at least. Oh, oh, cool. That's awesome. That blows my mind a little. Yeah, man. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Um, yeah, I wish school was more entertaining, Michael, and that way it could have captivated my mind a little bit better. Because again, when I was in school, I did not care about a lot of stuff. I just did my own thing, and look where I am now. uh, Yeah, and Captain Blue says, "Oh, speaking of, I have actually 5-minute sketch of a edutainment game if you want to see." Yeah, if it's something that you can post on Discord, we'll definitely take a look. But yes, again, going back to the thing, please share your stuff, share your art, share your journey, share your stories so that we can all learn from you guys. Michael, do you have anything to add?
Oh, one other thing in the chat, I don't know if we got to. Richard said that he touched a moon rock at Houston Space
Oh,
Center yesterday,
oh,
and it
geez, I
was
missed it.
epic.
Cool. That's
Yeah,
awesome. Sorry about that.
yeah, that is amazing.
That is pretty cool. All right. So,
Um, yeah. Okay, so now we've got the. So it's a 5 minute sketch.
yep, I
Was it
see it.
text or is it
He put it on Discord, and then so I
Okay,
will
cool.
go ahead
Let's
and
see in the gallery.
share my
Ooh,
screen.
cool.
Boom. Very cool. And
How do I
it's a education. That's cool.
this?
Key.
Yeah.
Oh, he's creating like a game.
Oh, like a Japanese language
Yeah.
training game?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah,
Um,
that's fantastic.
Captain Blue Blue apparently went inside my head and 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 stole not stole, but he saw one of the things that I wanted to do. Ha 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 ha. But
The
this is
mind
cool,
meld
man.
is
My meld. Yeah.
becoming more and more real.
Yeah. This is cool.
Yeah, that is awesome.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
whatever you're doing, this definitely has potential because I also thought of doing something like this. So I would say keep going, dude. Keep going. Because if I were to learn Japanese, I would want to play a game. I don't want to just read a textbook. Uh, textbooks are boring. I would much
Yep.
rather learn playing a game. So whatever this is, Captain Blue Blue, and I think I know what it is, and Michael probably knows what it is. Keep going, man. Keep going. So
Yeah, because I really firmly believe that the most effective way to teach people anything is by entertaining them to the point where they don't realize they're learning.
mhm.
Um, and I mean, there are like if you as as the learner are willing to put up with boring content, yes, you can chug your way through a lot of other content that is organized in a really dry format like a textbook or something, but you have to
Mhm.
put in a lot of effort there, and your retention rate's going to be potentially a lot lower. But if you have access to something that is so engaging that you can't help but be drawn to it, you don't even realize you're learning a
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And in the language learning world, like that happens all the time. Um, One of the great language learning researchers, Stephen Krashen, talks about this in a lot of his lectures. One of which is he talks about this I don't know, an acquaintance or student that he knew who grew up in I believe it was a I'm just gonna make up a couple of the languages because the specific languages don't really matter, but the story as a whole will still have the effect. Grew up in like a Korean speaking household, and the kid uh, he really liked watching this like superhero show, but it was only in Cantonese.
Mm.
And he was so committed to figuring out like what was going on in the story
Yeah.
that by watching the show, he actually learned Cantonese
That's
just from
awesome.
watching TV.
That's awesome.
Um, and that's the way our brains work. Like our brains are wired for like storytelling and for entertainment and engagement, and uh, you can it's almost like the Trojan horse kind of a thing, right? Where it's like, oh, look
Mhm.
at this shiny, fun, and exciting story. Like, oh, that's great. And then the you don't realize, but then the soldiers that are hiding inside pop out and be like, ah, gotcha. You actually learned a new
You
language.
learned
You didn't even
you
know it,
learned
did you?
something. Yeah, that's awesome.
So
Yeah.
yes, and the education system as a whole needs a whole revamp, and we could use a lot more entertainment infused with it. So
Yeah. Yeah. So
we're
so
counting on you, Captain Blue Blue.
w-
Make it happen.
ex exactly. With all that said, Captain Blue Blue, to keep doing it, dude. Pursue that dream of making that happen. And oh, sorry. There you go. Oh, hold on. No, there you go. Yeah. And Captain Blue says the race is on. I guess there is no race, man. Trust me, I have so many things that I still got to do. So there is no race. You're on the race by yourself right now, and please go as far as possible, cause we need more games like this. So yeah, keep it up, dude. Keep it up, man. Oh, Richard says, keep it up, Captain. Yeah, yeah, exactly. What Richard said. Yep. Um,
Absolutely.
so yes, if you guys have anything else, please share your work and your journey in the Discord. All right. Um, Michael, I think we should go ahead and wrap it up. It's 9 p.m. now in my time, and it's what 11 p.m. your time right now.
Yep.
And yeah, both of us are hungry. Both of us are. We need
That's
food.
true.
I don't know about you, Michael, but I am
I'm
hungry.
hungry.
Um,
I'm
so
always
yeah,
hungry.
let me put Michael's social stuff, media stuff, and let me put my stuff, really quick. And just to let you guys know, there's 3 more hours left on my the steampunk sailors Kickstarter, and with after this 3 hours are over, well, what I'm gonna say is not really true. Um, then you won't get the opportunity to get the pins that I designed. That's not true. Because once it's made, you could get it on Etsy and the CubePinClub.com store. But yeah, that's what is happening. That's what's going on with me right now. I'm currently running the steampunk Kickstarter, and after that, I will be doing my tarot card girls. Oh, Richard, you haven't got a chance to see this yet. I apologize. It's flipped currently. But I basically did like a whole bunch of cards, and they finally
Ooh.
came, and then they're all done. So this will be my upcoming Kickstarter, which I have been kind of designing. And after that, I'm doing like a whole different Kickstarter as well. It's based on the seven deadly sins, and hopefully that will generate some principal income for my livelihood. Yeah, so that's all. Oh, by the way, I will say every Friday night, Michael, every Friday night from now on, I will be streaming piano in at night. I what time I haven't established yet. I just know that on Friday I will play some piano. It'll be jazz. Do not request any songs because I can't read music. I suck ass at reading music. If you give me songs with chords, maybe if I know the songs, maybe then I can play. But for now, I'm just like improvising jazz stuff. So that's what I will be doing. And you can find me on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Lead Design Studio. And if you guys can, please go to my YouTube channel as well. I'm trying to get to 100 subscriber. And special shout out and thanks to King for promoting all my work. He's been like telling people in his D&D games that, oh, if you follow my buddy Chris on his social media or and YouTube, I'll give you an advantage points in the D&D game. I'm like, holy cow, that's cheating! But thank you so much. That is awesome. So special shout out to him for helping me on that part. And also for those of you guys who have already subscribed, thank you, thank you, thank you. I would not be where I am without you guys as well. So yeah. Michael, where can they find you, sir?
So I'm still working on getting my Twitch channel, Twitch streaming up and running. More and I'm getting more and more concrete about yes, it's going to be a book club and probably going to start with the books of Michael Crichton. I've gotten some feedback from folks in the chat who seem like pretty jazzed about that idea, so we're probably going to do that. I still need a little bit more time to put that together, so stay tuned. And in the meantime, I am also working on a revision of my book, but if you don't want to wait, you can get the current edition, which is available on Amazon now. And other than that, you can find me right here every Wednesday and Sunday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, hanging out with Chris and talking about creative stuff and making a video game. So
Yeah.
thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, and just FYI, so I will say that um, there will be sessions where I have not done any work at all on the game, and there might be sessions where just Michael and I will just show up and we'll be like, "What do you want to talk
Let's
about?
play Overwatch.
Do you want to stream
I'm
Overwatch? We'll
kidding.
just play Overwatch, while we stream, or we could, just chat about movies or video games in general. Oh, by the way, not to make the outro even longer than it is, but apparently Diablo Immortal came out and people are not happy about
Mm.
that. Um, and I would love to get your opinions on that, maybe in the later stream. We'll give it some time to 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 marinate a little bit. But yeah, Captain Blue says piano man, marking my calendar. I request Mozart's Seventh Symphony. Denied. Brr. No, no. I can't read. I mean, I can, but I read like a freaking turtle. I'm horrible at reading music. Captain Blue says, yeah, books. Captain Blue says we need a roller coaster tycoon stream still. Nice. Uh,
That would be
yes,
fun.
Battlestar Galactica. So say we all. Yeah, so say we all. Yeah, amen. Amen. Cool. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Richard, for being here. Thank you, Captain Blubu. Thank you, Horizon. Dr. Pecker. Am I missing anyone else? Am I missing anyone else? Hopefully I'm not. If I am, I totally apologize. But those of you guys watching, thank you. And we will see you next week on Wednesday. All right. Bye, guys. Oh, don't go anywhere. We're gonna raid. We're gonna raid people. All right. We're gonna raid. And I'm going to switch screen, and boo! Yeah. Cool. Oh, geez. Hopefully I didn't have my thing. Oh, anyways. All right. Let's see who is streaming. Michael, I want to do something a little bit different today.
Okay.
Instead of trying to stream or raid one of the people that I know, I would very much like to raid someone who's doing art and who does not have a lot of viewers. How does that sound?
Yep, that sounds marvelous.
All right. What I will do, sort by viewers low to high. Okay.
Choose wisely.
I will choose wisely. Hold on. What's this guy doing? Oh, he's Spanish. This one's Chinese. Give me 1 second, guys. Ooh, this person is doing Blender. Let's check this person out. Blender. Alright, so let me Meglon 2D. Alright. Oh crap, I gotta go to my creator dashboard. Do you guys like the music that I have on right now? Hopefully.
Oh yeah.
Alright.
I like that music.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Alright, we shall raid. We shall raid Meglon 2D. He's actually doing 3D, so I don't know why he's called himself 2D. Alright, we shall raid soon. Thank you guys so much again. We'll see you guys Wednesday.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.